Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Jets Report by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Seatman, and coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about the latest Garrett Wilson injury as he is expected to miss a couple of weeks with a knee injury. And we're also going to talk about how the New York Jets can possibly replace Garrett Wilson because that's going to be a huge chunk of production taken away from the wide receiver spot. So, how can the Jets manage that injury? But it was Adam Schefter breaking the news yesterday, saying an MRI today revealed that Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson hyperextended his knee and now is expected to miss, as one source said, a couple of weeks. Now, during the game, it looked like Garrett Wilson was grabbing his lower back. And then right after the game, people are speculating if it's a hip injury, but it turns out he hyperextended his knee, which, obviously is not good. So all good wishes heading Garrett Wilson's way. But, there's no doubt the Jets have the worst passing attack in the National Football League. And now it's going to get significantly worse without one of the best receivers in the National Football League in the lineup anymore. I mean, last week was absolutely atrocious. Now, I will say, after going back, diving into the all 22, no doubt Justin Fields had a very bad game, but also Tanner Engstrad was flat out horrible. The offensive line also in a couple of spots did not hold up. Like Fashano didn't feel like had a good game. Membu struggled there in a couple of reps. So this passing attack already the worst in the league. Now you lose Garrett Wilson. It's going to be an uphill battle. We'll talk about how they can replace him here in a second. But if you guys want to show Garrett Wilson some love, drop his jersey number, drop those fives down below in the comment section. One of the best, wide receivers in the league, and he's just a walking, human highlight reel. So unfortunate we're not going to be able to see him for the next couple of weeks. But if you guys want to show him some love, type those fives down below. All right, so I just want to get this off my chest here first. You cannot replace Garrett Wilson midway through the season, just like how most teams can't replace their star wide receiver unless you're going all out and trying to get a blockbuster trade done. But that's not going to happen for the Jets. But I do think they can at least manage the injury and try to get some more production out of some of the younger guys because Garrett Wilson, even though his numbers aren't going to blow you away this season, just under 400 yards in 6 games, averaging 11 yards per catch, he has found the end zone 4 times. He is just very, very productive for this Jets offense. And, obviously when teams are scouting the New York Jets and, their defensive game plan, I'm sure number one is obviously stopping the run. But then number two is like, yeah, we got to get 4 eyeballs on number 5 every single play. Because if you leave him one-on-one, it really doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He can still be extremely, extremely productive. So it's going to be hard to replace him. And there is really no truly replacing Garrett Wilson. But they can manage this injury. And the one way that I think probably is the most likely option here is their internal options. Like the Jets do obviously have, in my opinion right now, the worst wide receiver room in the NFL, especially without Garrett Wilson in the fold. And this even just, Dylan, this hurts me to put this graphic up here. This is ugly. This is about as bad as it can get. Josh Reynolds is the wide receiver 1 for a Justin Fields offense. Not good there. But then you have Allen Lazard, wide receiver 2. Arian Smith will probably get more run now. You also got a guy like Tyler Johnson, Brandon Smith. Maybe this also offers an opportunity for potentially Quentin Skinner to get brought up. But I think most of the pressure in terms of guys, having to step up will go on the younger guys. And, the first guy we're going to talk about here, how about Arian Smith? Because where the hell has he been? Now, I understand he was a 4th-round pick. It's tough for these wide receivers to really hit the ground running. But we just saw also last week, Tez Johnson for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He made a big-time play. He was a 7th-round pick, and he's a very similar receiver to Arian Smith. Obviously, has that breakaway speed. Drops have been an issue, dating back to his high school days. But, he's going to have a very big opportunity here because they also just need somebody who's going to put some pressure on the safeties because teams coming every week against the Jets saying, hey, we're going to stop the run. Safeties are playing in the box. Linebackers are, playing on their toes instead of their heels. But if you just have that deep threat, if you just even, or even if you're not even giving them the football, just still him running those streak routes, him running those deep posts should keep the defense a little more honest. But also, what about this guy, Quentin Skinner? I was a little disappointed when the final 53-man roster did come out for the New York Jets that Skinner did not make the final roster, but I think he should be called up. Obviously he was a UDFA this year. I thought he showed a lot of flashes during the preseason. He seems like he's a pretty solid 50-50 catch guy, so I could see him getting the call to be up there on the Jets' final 53-man roster for this upcoming week. So I'm looking at the wide receiver position. Arian Smith, Quentin Skinner, even a guy like Brandon Smith should have more opportunities. But also this, how about the other rookie? How about Mason Taylor? I was so furious last week that the Jets just did not get Mason Taylor involved whatsoever. Now, I will say Justin Fields missed him on back-to-back corner routes that would have been 20-plus yard games for number 85. But his production this year, I don't even necessarily blame him for this. This is more on just the offense and not giving him more involved because the first couple of weeks he was a no-show. Then he had back-to-back weeks where he had a lot of catches, had a lot of yards, but then this past week against Denver, he was a no-show yet again. That's why his total season stats, 21 receptions, 177 yards, 8.4 yards per catch. He's been that underneath, safety net for this offense, but he needs to get more involved. And now with Garrett Wilson not in the fold, there frankly is no excuse for Mason Taylor not to get double-digit targets every single week when Garrett Wilson is not out there. Mason Taylor, he is a weapon. He is a matchup nightmare for other defenses because if you put a linebacker on him, he's too fast. He's too athletic. You put a slot corner on him, he's just too big of a body where they can't hang with him. So I expect Mason Taylor to get more involved. He'll have a lot more targets, should lead to more production. And, talk about not having a wide receiver one. This guy's pretty much your top pass catcher now. So for all your fantasy football players out there, I would pick up number 85. He would be a good, stream play over the next couple of weeks. But let's show Mason Taylor some love here on today's show. I'm excited to watch him play, even though, injuries are obviously bad, but it does allow other players to step up and make some big-time plays for this football team. So if you guys want to show Mason Taylor some love, type his jersey number, type those 85s down below. Now we'll talk about two more ways the Jets can manage this Garrett Wilson injury here in a second. But before we do so, I got to give a massive shout out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. So don't miss any of the excitement this football season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. And if you guys download the Prize Picks app today, plug in that promo code CLNS. We'll hook you guys up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, Prize Picks also offers a brand new feature called Stacks, meaning you can pick up to the same player 3 times in the same lineup. So, for example, if you want to take more on Josh Allen's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns, now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. And also another cool feature they just dropped, you can follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app. You can copy their lineups in one click, whether it's a friend, celebrity, or someone's picks who you like. Hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new Feed tab on Prize Picks. So download the Prize Picks app today. Plug in that promo code CLNS. Get hooked up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. But shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Now, this third option here, I'm going to be excited to talk about this because I think the Jets should incorporate a little bit of a Wildcat because there is no doubt the Jets, they're a very vanilla offense. Every team knows what they want to do. They want to pound the rock. They want to get downhill. They have no passing game, and if you can force the Jets into third and long situations, this offense will be, like they've been, the worst offense in the National Football League. And I'm so serious when they say this. Get a little Wildcat going. And that could either be with a guy like Isaiah Davis, or that could be a guy like Justin Fields. Like, just use Justin Fields more as that dual threat quarterback because I will say, Fields, he is a freak athlete. He is one of the best athletes in the league at the quarterback position, but he doesn't have great feel in the pocket. So that's why we saw, like last week, him taking 9 sacks. A lot of those were on him because he'll just, honestly, he puts his head down so much when he's in the pocket, pressured in his face. He won't keep his eyes upfield. He'll put his head down. He'll start spinning around, and then he'll just get absolutely blasted. But what about more read options? How about more QB powers? We really have not seen that. Or how about throw another wrinkle in the playbook? Isaiah Davis, put him out there. And we just saw the Minnesota Vikings 2 weeks ago in London. They had Cam Akers throw a 30-yard touchdown pass. So there are answers to this problem for the New York Jets. And I think the Wildcat should be 100% on the table because also this is something where teams aren't scouting it during the week. You're not preparing to see the Wildcat formation at all when you're squaring off with the New York Jets because they haven't shown it once this season. But if you just want to steal a win this week, give the Carolina Panthers a look that they have not seen on tape at all this season, that could be the answer to the Garrett Wilson problem for the Jets. Now, there you could also bring in another guy. You could trade for a wide receiver. You could sign a wide receiver. But honestly, out of all of these, I think this last one is the least likely option because especially when it comes to trading for a wide receiver, the Jets are in no position to, not only trade for a wide receiver, but to not trade for anybody right now. You are 0-6. You are the worst team in the NFL by a wide margin. You are not going to give up future draft capital to go trade for another wide receiver. Now, if Garrett Wilson was out for the year and maybe the Jets were 3-3, then yeah, we would be talking about some guys they could trade for. But I don't think a trade is on the table. Now, you could potentially sign a guy, but the free agent options out there are super thin. You got a guy like Gabe Davis, Nelson Aguilar, Tyler Boyd, Brandon Powell, Jamison Crowder. Out of all these guys, I would probably pick Brandon Powell. He's a very good possession receiver. He can run a lot of underneath routes, which I do like that archetype wide receiver, next to an Arian Smith and next to a Mason Taylor. So I like that thought process there. But I just think the Jets, I think they're going to almost have to just bite the bullet with this injury. Like, I can't see them getting too aggressive in terms of bringing in some external options. I think they're just going to have to bite the bullet here. It's a brutal injury. I feel bad for Garrett Wilson, but that's just the life in the NFL. I mean, we look at the San Francisco 49ers, we look at the Minnesota Vikings, look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All these teams are catching the injury bug. So you're just going to have to bite the bullet on this one. And I will say, benefit for the Jets. You had 2 games against 2 very winnable opponents, and then you got the bye week. So I'm assuming Garrett Wilson will be back, in 4 weeks, miss these next 2 games, rest up over the bye, and then he should be back the week after. But just an unfortunate injury. But maybe you guys disagree. Maybe you think the Jets should bring in another wide receiver. What say you? Should the Jets trade or sign a wide receiver? Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no down below. We'll see you guys next time. As always, go Jets.